You're like, we never crossed $10,000, even with the 26% conversion. Then we're over $20,000 when we're at the 12%. So it just shows you, like, when we started weaving in those individual coaching packages and VIP days and things like that, so the amount was significant. Even video design, right? We would make the video, we knew the cutoff point was like 7.5 minutes. Like, that was the best we were going to get. So we started extending the videos because I think some of them we were like, okay, make them 8 minutes, Well, no, they just, the watch times got shorter. So we made the videos longer, just kind of fluffing the end, knowing we were getting the content out within 7.5 minutes. So we knew what we needed them to hear, they would get at the front of the video. A person's motivation is the highest in the first 48 hours that they're going to work with you, right? When they first start, if you're doing, a 5-day challenge, you've got those 2 days. And if you don't hook them within those 2 days, it's an uphill battle.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Digital Trailblazers. It's Leah Ray Getz, and with us today is Heidi Gruss. Welcome, Heidi. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Thanks, Leah. So obviously, my name is Heidi Gruss. I have a clinical private practice as a licensed psychotherapist here in Southeastern Connecticut. And about 6 years ago, I branched off to sort of expand my service delivery, right? To use my fascination with human behavior and creating long-term sustainable behavior change more in the business sector. So working with business owners to help them implement business strategy, having had now two successful businesses, and also creating the mindset foundation to really support that long-term change. Yeah.
I can really appreciate that because we are strategy people. I'll give you a pep talk and I'll give you some insights, but I am not a mindset person. I have a lot of internal motivation. I am a driven type A, go get it personality. So this is a really needed thing because so many people, we can give them the right strategies to do, but it all crumbles because they don't do it or they kind of half but it and don't actually do it, right? All those different things.
All the strategies work. So whenever there's another, business person selling some type of marketing strategy or, we're going to talk about a strategy today, they work, but they only work when you implement them and you do the care and feeding. It's not a one-time implementation ever. It's consistent action, right? And that's where the mindset piece has a very natural intersection there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that a lot of people who are just getting started or maybe at the beginning of their journey, they don't really understand this whole concept of passive income and just set it and forget it and your marketing strategies will work awesome forever. That's never the case. You will always be testing and it's going to work for a little bit and then something's going to break. And then you're going to work for a little bit and then something's going to break and then you're going to fix that. And then that is the normal process of having a business and something that it takes one heck of a mindset to stick to and succeed in.
100%. I mean, Leah, here's the thing, right? I talk about in any of my, social or live videos and with my clients that, the perfect plan doesn't exist. We set out on this course of action, assuming that if we follow all the steps, we're guaranteed the outcome in the end. And no one ever talks about what do you do when the obstacle or the challenge comes up. And whether it's related to that specific plan or it's about, the 3 kids that were hauling around in the back seat, and something comes up with them because, most of my clients are like me, right? They're business owners, they're moms, they're also volunteering and giving their time in a million other capacities. And so at some point, there's going to be friction or there's going to be challenge. And if your mindset is really not grounded in your personal power and your brilliance, then you see all of these obstacles and challenges really as the barrier so that you can't move forward. You accept them as the stopping point.
That's so true. So you currently, do you still have your clinical practice?
I do. Yep.
Okay. And then
coaching.
Okay. And the coaching. Okay. And the coaching is for business people. Awesome. So what was that like for you stepping into this other space? Like, I'm curious about that journey and what that process was for you and the challenges you faced.
So to be honest, it was a pretty natural transition for me. Number one, as a clinician, I tend to be still a direct communicator, right? So how we do one thing is how we do all things. Like, I'm very early on in my career as a clinician, I had a great mentor who was very insistent upon clinicians saying the difficult things aloud. And his reasoning was, you may be the safest and only person willing to say what needs to be said to your client. If you don't say it, you're enabling them, right? And I took that to heart because I know as a person, also type A, and I like to see results. I don't like when people just give me like the yay rah rahs, the you're doing good, keep it up. Like, I'm like, no, I need something tangible. Like, I need to know, how do I refine in just one way, something to keep me moving forward. I get very bored very quickly, So with that being said, the sort of the conversation piece was like fluid for me. And when I opened my practice, I had a full caseload with a wait list within 90 days. So in terms of developing, that foundation and knowing how to sort of market yourself and, use connections and networking and all of that, I mean, I just sort of leveraged that skill set into my coaching practice. Challenges that came up for me. I think this is true of many business owners with 2 separate businesses. Is, sometimes you get really passionately involved in one more so than the other, and so it's like keeping that energy up for both. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge because it happens on both sides of my business. The beauty, though, this is why I love what I do, is I'm always learning. Like, through my clients, like, I'm always listening. I'm always learning about what more they need, what more I could be doing, what more. And so that piece, it's like, it does fill my cup too.
That's awesome. And I felt that ourselves within our lives. It's because we have this business and then we also do real estate. And it's like the summer we had to go gung ho on that for a while. The balance and the flow, and you're like,
oh, and sometimes it's like, it's a good problem to have, but you're like, no, I need to be doing these things over here and I'm not upset, but I miss doing this over here,
So you said like networking and word of mouth and really building up is how you got started initially, correct?
Yeah. So I really put a lot of intention. I mean, I say this to all of my business clients, right, who come into me, they've got the business idea, they've got maybe the structure created, curriculums done. I have a lot of coaches as clients, and they're waiting for that product or offer to be completely solidified to start the marketing. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now, stop right now. You need to get ahead on your marketing, because what most business owners think is when they open their doors, they're going to have a line of people, waiting to work with them. And it's like, no.
No one's going to know you exist. Let's be real. Unless you have told them. And yeah, I 100% second that, because so many people get caught up in creating the offer in the info product space, and they put on, and great, you should have a great offer. That absolutely. But they sit like in their cave in their office for 6 months creating this masterpiece, and they haven't touched a single thing when it comes to building a network, when it comes to building an audience, creating any sort of lead magnet or systems or anything. And you're like, okay, well, I'm glad you got all that hard work done, but now you're starting from scratch. Like, you have no one interested in what you have to offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you've made some transitions from the referral word of mouth pays only or primarily into more digital marketing over the years. So what has that looked like?
Yeah. So exactly some of the things that you just mentioned, right? Developing really specific and targeted lead magnets, like, really looking to provide high quality, high level, like, information, to my community, and to draw in, to expand that community. We've done different conversion events. So some that you've seen before, challenges and master classes. I did something really interesting while one of my group programs was going on. We did a 12-week series live on Instagram. It was called the Sneak Peek Journal. We had I think I do have one. Yeah. We made up these little journals. They were available in print and digitally. They were PDF fillable. And each week followed a module, but it just gave like one little, bullet item from in the group coaching program. And so it was an opportunity to give people a chance to see what it was like to interface with me. Listen, when you're hiring a coach or, a mentor or consultant or someone to work with you, it really is a big decision, right? It's an important decision. And you don't need to overthink it, but you do need to make sure it's the right fit. And that's what I tell everyone who's like, interested in working with me. It's like, I don't want to rush you too quickly, because I want to make sure I'm the person that can move you forward. So giving people opportunities has been really key in my business, because there's a lot of coaches out there. I mean, it's a very saturated industry. There's a lot of mindset, a lot of business coaches out there. Most of them do not have a background like mine,
Right. We're a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different. And so then the most recent thing that we did is and I'm trying to think of what the email issue, that there was some type of email delivery issue going on. And so we just quickly pivoted to an SMS-based challenge. And so for our listeners, if you're not familiar, SMS is basically text messaging, right? And so we were very curious and we were trying to be very cautious around, how are we going to offer this to people so it's going to be well received, and that it's going to be relationship building, and that it wasn't going to turn people off in terms of like, stopping that subscription, and we went with it. And so we've run it now 4 times. And we started the first challenge we did. And so we've played with different things too. We've every time we've done it a little differently, just to like look at people's behavior, just to see. So we started off, we had 289 people in our first SMS challenge. And then the most recent one we just did here in January, we had 527. So the growth is definitely there. I've had people participate and continue on in my community, just moving from challenge to challenge. So some of these numbers are duplicated numbers. Mm-hmm. But there are also, last time in January, we had 30% that were brand new into the challenge, right? So, And I can talk through this in terms of like gaining social proof and marketing initiatives that we did to draw people in. But what it really did was it warmed people up very quickly. So when we look at, the ultimate goal from any conversion event is you want to have buying clients, right? You want to have contract clients. But we also know in this digital age that we have to touch people many more times than back in the day. It was like 7 or something. Like, now it's, depending on the expert you talk to, it's between 21 and 42. I mean, but it's exponentially gone up. It's no longer just, 4 to 7 touch points or something.
Right.
Yeah. So, and the other thing for me was that it was just really fun and easy to run.
Okay. So I have a million questions, and I love the fact that you've done this. Back in, it was 2017, 2018, maybe. Todd and I ran a challenge. It was a 5-day challenge, and we ran it through ManyChat, which back then was super effective. So this was back when you could have Facebook Messenger bots and lists, and it was fun. We really crushed it with it. And it was a huge ROI. We could drive paid traffic into it, and it was beautiful. Since then, ManyChat and the rules around Facebook Messenger bots and everything have drastically changed. And so that kind of killed that strategy. And since then, Todd and I have been like, oh, we gotta do something like that, but do it as an SMS challenge. And so I have a million questions on what you've done and how it's worked out, because this has been on our to-do list for years. So just for first to start at kind of at the beginning of this for people, what are the ways that you've promoted this?
Yeah. So the first one we ever did, we didn't promote. We just went within my email newsletter list, basically my community. We went and we, well, let me back up and say, so I am very much of the mindset where I'm always asking my community what they want. Like, what's the next thing, in terms of training, information, and how do you want it? Do you want a DIY? Do you want a group container? How do you want to interface with me? Because people change and depending on the season of life that they're in, right? So we had done some polling. And I also knew that my community, they are busy people, right? I talked about like the mom who's a business owner who's like spread really thin, right? So we just tested this within the community and didn't even really do a lot other than create an opt-in. Like, we didn't give a lot of lead time, nothing. It was like 4 days, like, jump in now or not. Who wants to try this out? Really didn't even have a lot behind it other than we had kind of a snazzy title. It was Taken for Action, right? So it was all about like stay in motion, stop, the start, restart, cycle, which I talk a lot about in my community. And who wants to give this a go?
Just to clarify, in your community, you're saying you're sending this to your email list,
yeah,
and in like a Facebook group or your socials, or
just an email list.
Oh, okay, wow,
just an email. So we had 289 people jump in, right off the jump. And so we were like, okay, let's just, because I'm also like, what is this going to be like to run? I have no idea. Like, if people are really, maybe 289, I won't even be able to handle. I have no idea. So we just did that. That was it. 289 people in, and we basically created a nurture sequence. And I just used my own sort of awareness around building relationships with people, right? Low risk to high risk type questions so that I can also understand who are my people, right? What do they need? What are the barriers? Let's get a little bit more intimate here. And then I had a structured challenge, just like you would if you were doing a Facebook challenge. Like, I had 5 main pillars that I was looking to, hit on each week. And, because that's the thing. It started out as a 6-week challenge. Crazy. 6 weeks that I gave, right?
Holy cow.
It was, but it was pretty easy. So I have a funnel system where I can schedule out this entire nurture sequence. So there were some SMS that were going out just as automated SMS. I was very clear at the on the onboarding, at the start of the onboarding about when I was available, when you would expect to hear back from me, how the format of the challenge would work, examples of questions that would be appropriate, all of those types of things, right? And so immediately upon opt-in, we had just one simple question. And we had like a 60% conversion in terms of response just on the first question, right? And so we learned something about that, right? We just, very simple question, very low risk. And it was just like, what is the ultimate promise you're trying to keep with yourself? Does it pertain to your personal life or business, right? So we would get personal life or we would get business, right? Or sometimes we would get a both, right? And then that was just the beginning of a natural conversation, because then I could say, tell me about it. Like, what is it? Right. And I mean, it was amazing, like, to see how some people are just like using this as this, you're a live coach. Like, they're giving you the goods, Each week there was a website hosted video with information. And then every day of the week, there were prompts that people had to follow through on. And every day, their prompt asked them to take action. And we knew they took action by the response that we would get, right? And so sometimes it was, give me a 1, 2, or a 3, give me an emoji for this, but there were very simple prompts and directives, and it all came from the content that we were teaching. So that was the first SMS challenge that we did. And it was really well received. And then we took the social proof from that. And that's when we did more, marketing efforts, and we designed it, a little differently in terms of the length of it. So it's shortened. It's now down to a 5-day challenge. Really looking at like what were the real like needle movers for people, right? And I'll own this 100%. I think when I did this the first time, it was sheer like over delivery, like thinking the SMS correspondence was going to miss something, and it was already going to dilute my ability to make an impact. And so I felt as if I had to overcompensate through the amount of material that I was giving. And that wasn't true. It wasn't true at all. So that was my learning. Yeah. In the design. And the other thing that we did, so when we first offered this, the call to action at the end was to have a private call with me to then figure out where in my community you wanted to land, right? And that was very time intensive, right? So for any business owner listening, like if you've got to do individual calls with everyone, that there's so much of you to go around. We then, what I did is I created a low ticket offer that was basically modeled after like a slow funnel. So it was a 90-day coaching program that was dripped in bite-sized pieces, just like the challenge was, but that I have an integration with WhatsApp. So I used WhatsApp. So it was 90 days. Then they could also add on our PDF fillable workbooks. And then the bump up was a 1-hour coaching session with me. And the first time we offered that, and it wasn't even like, again, like very late in the process, didn't do a great job of selling it from day one type of a thing. But we had, I think 32 people opt in, right? There was no selling. There were no calls. There was no any. It was just, if you want this, here's the link. Very easy. Very, very easy. And that's where we saw the warm up. Like that was a big warm up, considering how many of these people really weren't engaging, or purchasing or doing much of anything within my community. These were like brand new names. It wasn't like, oh, here's so-and-so and like coming through, this was, one of the first lead magnets I ever did, all of a sudden they're revived. And we're like, wow, this is something. Okay, let's run with it. And then the third and fourth iterations, I was selling individual coaching packages. And in addition to, so now I had the, 3 different offers primarily.
And so on the later iterations, were you taking sales calls, or were you selling high ticket packages directly from the challenge?
Both. Both. So that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, right, what we want is we've warmed people up enough where they don't need to have that final call, where they're able to look at, these are the 3 opportunities. This is what I want to do. And they just do it. They just take action. And then there were a couple of people that, again, through SMS are like, I just don't know if I'm ready for this, if this is it. And to me, that's, I had complete control where I'm like, why don't we jump on a call? Like, why don't we talk this through to see if it makes sense now, and what you want to do, So the calls that were scheduled was a one-to-one sort of decision by me. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So let's kind of break this down for everybody, because I think they're getting the concept of an SMS challenge. So, okay, they opt in and they're clearly checking the box, you can text me sort of thing when they're doing that, letting them know it's an SMS thing. And you're sending them a prompt right away with a question to get some engagement right off the bat, correct?
First SMS was a welcome video and 1 question.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And so it's a link to a page with the video on it. And does the video ask a question, or does the text message ask the question?
The text asks the question. Yeah.
Cool. And then do you have it automated to go daily just for the next 5 days? They're getting 1 message for each video, or?
So 2 things. We had a nurture sequence for people. So the window to opt in, we've done it at different lengths. So there's a nurture to keep people engaged until the start of the challenge. And that's all automated. And then there's the automated challenge text as well. So that's all outlined, and there's strategy in that as well, like how you're because it's a balance of you're giving information, you're asking people to take action, and you're providing accountability in there, right? So
interesting. I forgot for a second that you do like it's a start and stop sort of thing. So back when we were doing ours, it was an evergreen.
Yeah.
Where it was all set up where they could sign up and then it started the next day sort of thing. So, okay. So you do a little nurture sequence during the sign up window, and then it kicks off and they're getting the 5 days of content. And then so day 5, is that when you're kind of going through your sales presentation?
Yeah.
Or
I start my sales right on day 1.
Okay. So walk us through that.
So here's the thing, right? At this point in time, most people know if you're participating in some type of a challenge or something like this, there's going to be an offer at the end. I just call it right in the beginning. And I tell my friends to do this too. It's like, be transparent. It's part of how you build that know, like, and trust factor anyway, right? And so, right in that welcome video, I'm letting people know what to expect, and I let them know, and you're going to hear about ways to work with me. Yeah, so if you're here to scope me out and do your due diligence to figure out like who I am and what it's like to work with me, great. Yes, you're going to hear about offers, right? And if you want more information about that, you could always text me individual questions along the way, right? And then day 1, as we're introducing, the first sort of concept around like identifying your goal, identifying your why, and understanding like we are emotional beings. And I'm like talking all about how we're not robots, so we don't execute goals, like we're robots and blah, 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 blah. And I just go right into the whole reason why we have to incorporate mindset work into what we do. And this is how I do this with my clients. And you're going to get an opportunity. There is a 90-day program. many people want to continue on in because it's a natural transition formatted very much like this challenge. So if you like this challenge, that may be the program for you, because you do it on your time. And I'm just letting them know like how that program is different than if you're going to enroll in some type of one-on-one, coaching program with me.
Okay. So it's all the selling is essentially sprinkled in throughout. And then on the final day, you're wrapping and you're laying out clearly the different prices and packages.
I mean, I don't even do a ton of that. So I'll tell you, on the Wednesday of the challenge, I do offer some early bird pricing, right? So if you know that you want to get into the 90-day program, here's a coupon code, but Friday at midnight, it expires. So if you wait, so what we noticed was that the coupon code really didn't make a difference. It did not. I mean, we had just as many people pay the full price as we had used the coupon code. So, I'm sharing that because use it for how you want to. It may have made some people move quickly and really appreciate that. And there were other people who missed the coupon and they didn't complain. They knew it and that was it.
Okay. And then at the end, they get throughout this process, they're going to get their, the different options and availability to buy something. And also you can choose to offer them. There's not like a or book a call. It's you're selecting to you choose to offer them.
Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you the individual coaching packages, I really didn't do a lot to sell those. This was more people who, you're going to have that top 5% that sifts themselves to the top, right? You're going to see that. And when I say that people got very intimate and very detailed about their process with me over SMS, please do not at all think that it's going to be a barrier to you getting information, because it wasn't. In my experience, it was not at all. And so people were qualifying themselves. And then for me, it was a very easy sort of ask, do you want to jump on a call and do you want to talk this through? Do you want to have a direct conversation about this? Do you, and they did, they were just waiting for the invitation.
Interesting. So started with 200 some, have moved on now, you're up to 500. What kind of conversion rates are you looking at overall, and what has this done for you?
Yeah. So what I will tell you is in terms of conversion rates with the different offers. So it's going to sound funny because the conversion rate actually has gone down, but keep in mind that the program offerings were much larger. So the second time we ran the challenge, what was really important for me to look at was how many people were actually engaging in the challenge for the duration of the challenge too. So you're going to have a lot of freebie chasers, right? You're going to have people who opt in and they don't do anything. It's still behavior to watch though, for your listeners, because, I'll get to that in a second, but what I noticed, it was right around 34%. And then that was my target. 34% of the people opting in were actually participating, right? We're looking at 30, it was like 100 and something, 143 rings a bell for me. There's like actively engaged people. So the highest conversion we had was a 26% conversion. And then it was down at 12%. But the dollar amount is significantly different, right? So under a 5-figure, like we never crossed $10,000, even with the 26% conversion, that we're over $20,000 when we're at the 12%. So it just shows you, like, when we started weaving in those individual coaching packages and VIP days and things like that, so the amount was significant. So you've got to look at both there, because you've got fewer people, but if they're buying higher ticket things, that's where you want them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you want them where they need to be, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, from a revenue perspective. So when it comes to like participation throughout, because this is something that we studied when we did our evergreen Facebook Messenger challenge, is that we had a really good conversion rate on if people watched day 5, it was like 60% or something better of them were opting in to, or were buying the offer at the end. But there was, drop-offs day to day. And so we were watching the percentages. So something that we wanted to test at some point is doing a 3-day or like shortening it up to keep the, attention spans are hooey these days.
Well, here's what I would say about this, right? So 2 things. My videos were really short. Like we were trying to keep everything 10 minutes or under, right? Because again, to your point, attention spans short, and and we were looking at like how much of the video are they watching? And so, even video design, right? We would make the video, we knew the cutoff point was like 7.5 minutes. Like that was the best we were going to get. So we started extending the videos because I think some of them we were like, okay, make them 8 minutes, Well, no, they just, the watch times got shorter. So we made the videos longer, just kind of fluffing the end, knowing we were getting the content out within 7.5 minutes. So we knew what we needed them to hear, they would get at the front of the video. So this is like the strategy piece. And this is where like my fascination with human behavior, like I get really into this stuff. And that's how I teach my clients to do this too, Right. The other thing is, so for me, again, from a clinical perspective, a person's motivation is the highest in the first 48 hours that they're going to work with you, right? When they first start, if you're doing, a 5-day challenge, you've got those 2 days. And if you don't hook them within those 2 days, it's an uphill battle, right? So the first 2 days were specifically formatted in that way, right? It was all about like, we're giving the goods, we're giving the juice, we're giving everything. Not to say that the other 3 days weren't important, but
it was front-loaded, if you will.
Really front-loaded. The other thing was that every time I did this, I then learned, where those points were, where I had text copy ready to go, even though I manually sent it to people based on their behavior patterns, where I would sort of call them out on their behavior, right? I would be like, hey, like, listen, I know you're busy, but I also know you opted in for this challenge because you have a hard time like prioritizing what you say is most important to you. And so if you can't do it here in this challenge, like this is your opportunity, and it would just be that kind of stuff. But that's how it is to work with me, right? So
you're authentic.
Super, super authentic. And I would get people that would say, fair, you got me, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Or thank you so much for the text. You're absolutely right. I don't know what my problem is. And this is what I'm saying. Like the transparency that I got back is exactly. And so the types of clients, every time we've done this, that I've gotten into my now private work with me are better and better and better. So when you start wanting to like get your ideal client, this is why I say to all coaches, you need to be growing and learning as you're scaling your business. And this is how you do it intentionally. Because now, like, we all have times with our clients where it's like, you feel like you're dragging them or you feel like you want it more than they do, right? And I don't, right now, I do not have that. I don't have that. And I can so much more confidently speak to that on my social. Like, I'm not going to drag you along because I know I don't have to, because now I've created things to sort of qualify my clients in such a different way and a more efficient way.
Interesting. I'm like, yes, it does have me salivating to test out our stuff that we've been talking about forever.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool strategy. And I mean, open rates, even if people don't respond to text message in general, the open rates are still crazy high. People see them.
So listen, I'm gonna just let you know, my system right now, our open rates are not even accurate. So I can't even tell you, but we at least, we know these results without knowing our actual rates. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm saying this because for the person listening who's so overwhelmed too, thinking, what is this like to actually implement and, all of that? I mean, it is a lot easier than even somebody who's intimidated by tech. It's pretty easy. I do not consider myself to be super tech savvy. With proper instructions, I can learn, but don't cross this off your list just because you're hearing tech and SMS and this funny language, because you can do it.
Yeah, I think as long as your system has automated text messaging features, this could very well be on your plate to handle. I'd say, get your core fundamental systems in place, and then you can start working towards a big project like this. Have you ever thought about doing an evergreen?
We have. It's on the list. So here's something else that we just tested too. I'm always looking at different things, but yes, the evergreen option is something. I'm launching a 12-month membership as well. So once that is ready to go, we will evergreen the challenge so that it feeds right into the membership. I want those two to work hand in hand, because the people now who are finished 90 days, they want more. And I'm like, okay, let me build this for you. We also tested a 5-day premium coaching challenge. No, I mean, we didn't call it a challenge. We called it a 5-day premium coaching. And I've got another one of those coming up starting February 19th. Similar but different in terms of the format is the same in terms of a video, a daily prompt or directive. Content's just very different, and calling in a different type of business owner, one who's got the foundation already solidified. So helping my own community continue to grow too. And now looking at different types of strategy and mindset work that needs to be done.
So what are your plans for next stages, or how you plan to grow or tackle the next year?
Yeah, so we've got some fun, exciting things happening. So I've never had a Facebook community tailored just to business growth and strategy. We just launched one. It's called The Shift, and that is the next 5-day premium coaching experience that's coming up in February. It's all about how to make simple shifts, right? It's really about refinement, adjustment, because when you have enough data points, when you've been doing things consistently, you can make informed decisions. You're not making fear-based decisions, right? So we've got that coming up in February. The 12-month membership is also going to be launching in February, and that is called the Next Level Visionary. That is a collective, right? So there are program modules in there. There's also going to be live masterminds that happen monthly. There's also going to be live business trainings that happen as well as I will always be working with clients individually. And I've got different timeframes depending on what it is that my client is looking to achieve and accomplish. So that's what's coming and what's happening.
Yeah. So what would be a number one piece of advice you'd give to anyone who wants to start a business like this?
Meaning a coaching business or like an SMS challenge or what? I mean, I think that, let me return, because my advice is always the same, right? It's you need to develop a solution-focused mindset, right? Because if you're the type of person that is always finding a problem with every possible solution, you are really choosing to stay stuck, right? And instead, I'm always telling my clients, we even have a standard on my team, right? If there's a problem, if there's an obstacle, a barrier, don't identify the barrier without bringing at least 3 solutions to the table as well, right? Because it's all about having the solution, being open to the solution. It may not be the ideal solution, but so often we just need to keep moving forward. We don't need the perfect solution. We just need a solution.
Yep, 100%. I love that. So what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah. So if you go to Heidi Gruss, it rhymes with Seuss, but it's spelled differently. It's GRUSS, HeidiGruss.com/links. you will see all of my latest challenges will always be up there. You can book a private call with me if you want to have a more intimate conversation. And, different offers. The 12-month membership, of course, will go up there. So that is the best place to find me.
Awesome. And do you have a freebie for our audience?
Absolutely. So my latest workbook is called From Burnout to Brilliance. So you can post the link for that there, but really getting you to look at how you're overextending in terms of your time management. Also looking at the routines and rituals you have currently for your personal life as well as in your business to really support that sustained growth. And then finally, looking at how you manage your emotional bandwidth, right? Specifically looking at how many people allow small problems to become big problems, therefore costing you a lot of your time, energy, resources, and emotions. So there you go.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I got my juices flowing again for an SMS challenge. So don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, if you hear about that later in the year from us.
Awesome. We can keep talking about it too, Leah.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.